and welcome back to Block TV. Today in Libra news, so to speak, Facebook took another step towards formalizing its planned cryptocurrency Libra this week, establishing a council of 21 firms committed to launching and overseeing the currency, a move overshadowed by more than half a dozen of its initial partners dropping out. It also elected a new 5-person board and established a new governance system, according to its own press release. To cement all these shiny new moves, David Marcus, the head of Libra, took to Bloomberg yesterday to defend the recent move, the recent move and Libra in general, and put out a happy face on all of it. Let's have a listen.
Yesterday we had our inaugural council meeting in Geneva, and it was a really awesome moment where 21 companies came together, not only companies, actually social impact partners, venture firms and others, came together and started working on not only establishing a governance model for the association, but also distributed different roles. A board was elected. I was lucky enough to also be elected at the board with 4 other amazing individuals that I'm really looking forward to working with. And the big change is that fundamentally yesterday, this project moved from being Facebook-led to being led by this association, of which we're one of 21 members now, and in the future one of 100, and one of 5 board members. So really looking forward to the next stages here, and it was just great to feel the passion and the energy in the room and the commitment from all of these parties that are now really going to work on really trying to change the status quo for people all around the world when it comes to access and cost of financial services.
As awesome as this is, to explain it all, I'm joined in studio by none other than Asha Westrop Evans, Block TV senior correspondent. Okay, first of all, I got to tell you some buzzwords that I've actually recognized of the lingo of the President of the United States. Awesome, amazing, amazing. Yeah. Okay.
And the passion and energy and the commitment,
and
the commitment in the room. They were very committed. All these 21 members are extraordinarily committed. There is no, figurative gun to their heads.
Visa's no longer committed. Visa not committed.
No,
okay, but that's it. Okay, let's first of Bloomberg, just to put to put things in perspective. He goes to Bloomberg. It's a very smart move when it comes to the position, the hierarchy of American networks, financial networks, that people will watch and listen before Zuckerberg has to sit in front of those committees next week.
And certainly, and in the wake of this big Geneva summit, the signing of the charter, the getting all these a more formal commitment, although we haven't yet heard anything about the $10 million most of them are still supposed to pay. But regardless, they've signed the paperwork, which is, I suppose, a step in the right direction in terms of that corporate governance structure that Facebook has been trying to push for so long. The Libra Association has Facebook just as one member among many. They hold no special position. That being said,
and the idea of separating Facebook from the narrative of Libra, which we all understand why, did he make that case in that interview?
So, he sort of spoke to the fact that, particularly in that quote that we heard just there, about the fact that Libra will no longer be the baby of Facebook. It's now taken on its own form and shape. That being said, he is still the one doing the speaking formally of it. Still, David Marcus, a Facebook employee, is still going ahead and doing that. But one thing he did address is these dropouts and these guys that left the Libra Association before they had the chance to sign the charter. And let's hear a little bit about what he had to say about that.
End of last week, there was a lot of pressure mounting, and I totally respect the fact that those businesses and those leaders have a responsibility to their shareholders, to their employees and stakeholders. And given that you don't need to be a member of the association to build on top of the Libra network, all of these companies will still have the ability to build on top of Libra. I understand that they don't want to do the heavy lifting by our side at this moment in time, and that's okay. We're going to move forward. We're going to add more members going forward in the next 2 quarters, and we're going to work really hard together to address all of the legitimate concerns that were raised by regulators and stakeholders around the world before this can move forward.
What's so striking to me, we're going to address all those legitimate concerns, but he didn't really, did he?
No, and he didn't in this format. I guess you could argue that the regulation going on behind closed doors, you don't want to address that element. To me, the focus that came out of that one was the idea that he said, all right, we get it, these guys that pulled out don't want to do the heavy lifting by our side, we understand. Sounded a little bit, and pardon my language here, like a fuck you to those companies, saying that, that, all right, you guys pulled out, I understand you're too weak to continue going on with us, but you have your own reasons, And look, I guess from their perspective, they've been trying to set this up for a long time to have these major names pull out, and some of the biggest names. You see, MasterCard, Visa. These are the main credibility.
That's the thing.
PayPal.
Those are the main credible payment
processors.
Exactly.
That whole
payment processors.
Sort of,
bingo.
When they launched the Libra project, they had everything split into, look, we've got people representing the payments processors field, we've got social media, we've got transportation, we've got all these fields represented. Effectively, the whole rail that was the payment processors have pulled out. They're the ones with the experience in this field. They're the ones who know how to set this up and work with the financial institutions to establish it. And as great as Uber might be to have as a partner in terms of brand name recognition, it doesn't have
and
that
as a
payment
brand name
processing.
recognition, one should argue Uber is also has a questionable reputation
Right. Well, I
past.
mean, a lot
exactly.
of them have questionable
past. And
yes.
but you're totally right with that. It was a defensive note, note in his in that interview.
Exactly, and that's something that even Kurt Wagner, the host of Bloomberg Technology, who was interviewing in there, picked up on. I think we'll take a look at the next clip to see how that played.
A lot of the companies that did leave, at least late last week, they're payments companies, they're financial services companies.
Yes.
Theoretically, those are companies that are familiar with the road ahead for you guys. Are you worried that they maybe know something that you're unaware of here?
No, and I want to strongly state that. I don't believe we're unaware of anything. I just believe that when your core business is in this space and you probably receive a lot of pressure not to press on.
Yeah.
So he doesn't believe they're not aware of anything. Could flip that around and say they believe they know everything. They believe they have all the answers, and these guys who pulled out are the fools for leaving this project before it even got off the ground that has such big potential. And look, again, we harp on a lot against the Libra project. There's a lot to point out, a lot to criticize. They are trying to break new ground and go into a bold new territory, and we should give credit, at least in the sense from an innovative perspective.
Entirely, and one could argue that even Facebook, given the newly the 2.3 billion users on it at the end of the day. Million users on it at the end of the day. Am I correct in saying that? Billion. Thank you, Yael. Yeah. Slightly jet lagged here. The 2.3 billion would be a great platform to mass adopt to mass adopt digital currency. That said, all of this, and this is my question to you, is leading up to what's going to be the big showdown in Washington, D.C. next week, and that's Mark Zuckerberg once again sitting at that seat in front of those committees. Do you think he's ready? That's one. And what are the questions that he would be in your educated mind that he would be requested to answer that he doesn't have answers to yet?
Look, I mean, I think the big thing that's going to come up, given the tone that was apparent the last time that Zuckerberg was in front of Congress, and that was in relation to the Cambridge Analytica scandal, will be privacy. I think privacy will be a huge issue.
And that was a huge failure, one can argue, from a PR standpoint. Zuckerberg did not go well.
Certainly, he did not really address that question satisfactorily in the minds of a lot of congresspeople and in the minds of a lot of the public, which is why we find ourselves in the position we do now. That being said, as well, I think particularly coming from the Republican side of things, a lot of Republicans are deeply concerned about this, Facebook generally, but now moving into payments, serving as a bit of a limiter, a sort of censor in some ways. There's a lot of concerns in conservative circles that their conservative side of politics is being censored in a lot of ways by larger social media. And now if those same companies are taking control of the payments side of things, who will be concerned? As was addressed in the last congressional hearing where we had David Marcus speak, and we heard concerns from Republican congresspeople saying that anyone can use the US dollar, but who gets to use the Libra, who gets blocked, who gets banned, and why
and who decides?
Exactly, and who decides that? They obviously will continue to answer that Facebook is but one among many partners, but as that list has whittled down already from 28 to 21, and as much as they claim in their press release, they say that there are thousands of companies, the press release that came out the other day, over 1,500 entities have indicated interested in joining the Libra project, I'm quoting directly here, and approximately 180 entities have met the preliminary membership criteria. So there again, that's another bit of a, we don't need these guys that pulled out, we've got all these entities that are still interested. What the quality of those entities are they to the caliber of Visa and MasterCard and going to give that credibility to the organization? Yeah, I'd be skeptical.
Entirely so, and as you said, Facebook being, the mammoth that it is, very well positioned to launch this type of a move, but it doesn't look it doesn't look like it's happening right now.
Well, whether or not it happens, and whether
a lot of obstacles,
yes,
a lot of obstacles along the way.
Obstacles.
But the man to answer them all, we've got to give him credit as we wrap this up. David Marcus, at the end of the day, is the master of questions,
and
sorry,
great
answers. Great eyebrows. Okay, thank you, Asha Rosford Evans. This was, of course, Cryptonomics with a closer look that we'll be continuing to do on Libra and where it's heading, and we'll be right back.
For more news and updates, follow us on Twitter.